Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce. This is a US election special. It's a reaction to and analysis of the debate that took place last night between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. This was hotly anticipated. There was a lot riding on this. The polls are exceptionally close. The election is the closest in history. And Kamala Harris is a bit of an unknown to a lot of people. Donald Trump is tried and tested. They know who he is and are still supporting him in large enough numbers. So first of all, what I want to discuss is what was the point of this debate? Now, it was different for both people. The point of this debate for Donald Trump would be to show that Kamala Harris was not competent enough to run for president, to be president, that her policies were wrong and poor and not as good as his policies, so on and so forth. He needs his absolute number one objective going forward until the election day is to try and attract as many swing voters, independent voters, undecided voters, and Democrats over to his camp as possible. Like I've told you a million times, he at the moment has this hard ceiling because he is only really appealing to his base, and his base will only get him at most 46% of the vote. And so to get that, to become president again, he needs to attract people from outside of his base. This debate should have been about appealing to centrists, to Democrats, disaffected Democrats, appealing to undecided, etc., etc. Did he succeed in doing that with this debate? Her job was slightly different. In the same way as his objectives, her objective is also to appeal to people outside of her base. So there is that. She needs to, one, consolidate her base around her, consolidate the Democrats around her, maybe Democrats who were still wanting Biden, don't really know her or aren't really convinced by her, bring them around into the fold. Then it is to attract centrists, independents, swing voters, and Republicans. So she still has all the same objectives as Trump in that respect. And I think she's doing a better job of that. And she's not really just appealing to her base. She is appealing to Republicans. Hence, the DNC had all those Republican speakers, 200 Republicans, like serious Republicans from previous Republican administrations have endorsed her. She is going for those voters big time, giving Republicans a permission structure to vote Democrat. That's what she's doing because she needs to have a united front. So in this debate, she needed to continue to show unity, that she was representing all Americans from both parties and centrists, that she, even if you disagreed on some of her policies, was in a much better position to represent all Americans than Donald Trump. But a key difference between the two is that there is this group of undecided voters. Now, these aren't genuinely people who are, I mean, there is a group that's like this, but people who are like, oh, I don't know, do I vote Trump? Do I vote Harris? I know both of them. I know their policies. I'm just undecided at the moment. I'm just in the middle, not quite sure where I'm going to go. That's not the undecided voters I'm talking about here. The undecided voters I'm talking about here are people that don't know Kamala Harris and are undecided on her, but purely because they don't know enough about her. This is not the same as Trump. There are no voters in the US who don't know who Trump is and what he's about. He's been president for 4 years previously. He's then had 4 years trying to be president again, basically campaigning for the last 4 years. And here he is on the campaign trail to become the next president. Everyone knows him, right? He is not an unknown. But for a lot of low information voters in the US, Kamala Harris, even though she's been vice president, is an unknown. She's an unknown quantity. They don't know her background. They don't know who she is, what she represents, who she is fighting for, what her policies are. And so there's a large number of people that Kamala Harris will be appealing to here by presenting who she is. Trump won't need to do that. That's not part of his plan really for this debate, and understandably so. He doesn't need to do that. She does. So she needs to introduce herself to a bunch of people and also explain policies in a way that will speak to them, and those undecideds could be all over the shop in terms of their political persuasion. So the people who don't know her from the Democrat side, from the independent and swing voter side, and from the Republican side, she needs to introduce herself, appeal to all of them, give a sense that she's competent, and give them a sense that she has a plan, and we'll come back to that, and give them confidence that she is strong and serious, but also fighting for them. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, there was this approach that she was representing, looking to camera, speaking to the American people, saying, I'm the one that's got your back. He's just in it for the tax cuts for the rich, etc., etc. I'm for you. The maybe the low information voter who's come here to understand who I am for you. So when we look at everything in the rest of this video, always be thinking about, when we're listening to parts of the debate, and I'm not going to play huge amounts of the debate, but I am going to play quite a bit of different analyses of what she said. But always be thinking, like, how does that land with those core demographics? And within all of these areas, like independents and swing voters and undecided, you've then got female voters, you've got young voters, young female, young male, white, black, people of color, young, old, professional, working class, all these different segments of society and subgroups of subgroups. And when you talk about abortion, you're talking about reproductive rights, you're appealing predominantly to women, suburban women. That's going to be a big demographic. So all of these aspects of the debate and what each of the debaters say, each nominee says, how is that falling with each of these groups? And is that going to pull more people to one camp than to the other camp? Who is more successful in pulling those voters towards them? Okay, we're just going to get an initial summary of how the debate went from a number of people. We're going to start with Chris Wallace. I've chosen him because he is a former Fox News host and anchor, and he was one of the last really decent ones who are somewhat more objective, though. He skewed Republican. So I think his opinion is quite important here. He's now on CNN as a former Fox Republican.
Jake, I didn't think I was ever going to witness a debate as devastating as the one that you and Dana moderated back in June, where Joe Biden basically tanked his re-election campaign. I think tonight was just as devastating. I think that Kamala Harris pitched a shutout. On almost every subject I can think of. She shut Trump down on abortion. She shut Trump down on January 6th and democracy. She shut him down on national security and turned to the former president and said, the military leaders who served with you think that you're a disgrace. And then, as Dana mentioned, very powerfully at the end made the point that she is the candidate of change, and we need to turn the page from a decade of division and polarization. On substance, I think she pitched a shutout, and I think she did on style as well. I mean, the image of the debate to me is she's there happy, smiling, expressive, shaking her head and dismay at things Trump was saying. And Trump looked angry, scowling. She was looking directly at the audience. He was looking at the moderators and arguing with them. And something else.
And
Donald Trump looked old tonight.
Yeah.
And somebody said on my show on Saturday, she wins just by showing up. I didn't know that was going to be true. I think it was.
Yeah.
She was the candidate of change just from the moment the two of them were on the stage.
To everything that she said.
Well, what you saw really was
under control.
Vice President Kamala Harris prosecuting this debate with surgical precision. She was aware, as she must have been as a prosecutor, that the second you were inside of a courtroom, the jury is looking at everything you're doing.
Okay, so that is an absolutely damning assessment from Chris Wallace of Trump's performance, and this is a resounding win for Harris. Most analyses are saying this. Even on Fox News, there was the claim that it wasn't a good night for Trump. So you read that into reality, and you can multiply that a little bit. So that's a really interesting analysis. We're going to look at a whole bunch of things. We're going to go now to Michael Steele, and again, why he's important. So don't just look that this is on MSNBC. Think about who he is. So he is a former organizer of the RNC, so Republican National Convention. So this is a former Republican. I wouldn't say he's going to be voting Trump this time round, but this is a guy that knows what a Republican needs to do to appeal to the audience. And he's absolutely right when he picks out the very opening of this debate. It's incredibly important. In fact, I'm going to show you the opening of the debate because as far as I'm concerned, you could almost say that she owned it from here on in. So this is the very beginning. So look at where Trump is going. He's going straight to the lectern. You normally meet in the middle and you shake hands. He goes straight to the lectern. And she pursues him to make sure he shakes her hand. That is her controlling the dynamic there. But it's not just that. Listen carefully.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
What does she say? Kamala Harris. She introduced herself. He knows who she is. He doesn't need to, like, he wouldn't go up to her, Donald Trump. I'm Donald. She says Kamala Harris. Why does she say Kamala Harris? Because he's been mispronouncing her name all that time. Every rally, he's pronouncing her name differently as a barbed attack on her. She walks up, shakes his hand, says, Kamala Harris. That's how you say my name, Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate. So that is setting the stall out there. And that is someone who has thought with her team long and hard about how to get off on the correct foot and communicate to the audience and to Donald Trump a number of different things.
Okay, Michael Steele, you were quite animated when I saw you in the hallway earlier about that debate. I'm gonna see what you're gonna tell me. You think of the debate that you told me in the hallway. What was your take on the debate, Michael Steele? Go ahead. What was the key moment?
She spanked that ass. I'm sorry.
That's Michael Steele, former head of the RNC. She spanked that ass. You may think that's frivolous, but that's essentially, look how happy these guys are. Just get an understanding of how people think that went just by their general demeanour here. There's an awful lot, there's a big sigh of relief that's taken place today on behalf of the Democrats and people supporting Democrats. There was so much riding on this debate that when she, not only did she just look competent and normal and just regular, people could have sighed that sigh had she just done okay, but she didn't just do okay. She spanked that ass.
Right? That's what she did. She came and she walked on that stage. Look, for me, it's one of those things that you didn't realize happened until about 20 to 30 minutes into the debate. And it's what everyone's talked about. And for me, it was the pivotal, most important moment of the debate was when they were introduced. And Donald Trump came out, and if you watch, go back, I tell everybody to go back and watch this. He comes out, he goes direct to the podium. He is not, usually you go to the middle of the floor to greet your opponent. He went to the opponent, he had no intention of shaking her hand. She walked across the stage right into his space, stuck her hand out and said, Kamala Harris. First off, I'm saying my name so you get it right when you say it, which he never said once during the entire debate. Two, he never looked.
Really important. So he never says her name once in that debate. I think he only once looks at her when he's like really angry contesting something, but generally doesn't look at her. We'll talk about this in a minute. There's a split screen quite often. So when one is speaking, because the other doesn't have a microphone, because they mute the other side. And I think Kamala Harris knew this and her team knew this. It's like, there's going to be a split screen. So you need to communicate your disdain or your almost patronizing, what are you talking about kind of reaction through facial expressions and body, speaking with your body. And she does that really, really well. So the split screen was her friend. And she reacted so well to everything he was saying but he didn't look at her. He didn't really address the audience directly into the camera in the way she did. And he didn't say her name. She said his name a number of times.
Looked at her during the entire debate. And there was this point about 20 to 30 minutes in where that moment for me hit and resonated because she owned that stage from that very first moment. Very much to what Molly was just saying, that what she did was she prosecuted when she needed to prosecute, and all other times she was presidential. Yeah. And he looked small, he looked withered, he looked beaten, but most importantly, he looked pissed. And there's nothing worse than a pissed bigot on the stage with a woman he can't control. And she gave him no quarter for that. She gave him no room. And even in the one moment where she talked while he was talking, and you knew it was the moment he wanted, and he rehearsed it, and he was so anxious to say it, when he looked at her, he goes, "I'm speaking."
So this is that one moment he does look at her, and he was trying to riff on the idea that she, during those select hearings, I forget what you call them in the US. In the UK, we call them select hearings, where she was, well, actually, it's where you are trying to see whether the candidate for Supreme Court Justice is the right person, and she did with Brett Kavanaugh and others, and there was I think it's a Brett Kavanaugh one where she was like prosecutorially giving him, a really hard time, and rightfully so, because you want to make sure these are the right people to make the rules and uphold the law of the land and interpret it in the correct way. And I think with Brett Kavanaugh was trying to speak over there, she said, "No, I'm talking. No, I'm talking." And so that was a really viral moment, and she's quite famous for that. So Donald Trump was trying to riff on that idea and say, "No, I'm talking," but it just didn't land very well.
Was so anxious to say it. When he looked at her, he goes, "I'm speaking." I'm speaking.
Does that sound familiar? Then he said, "Does that sound familiar?"
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, he was feeling clever. Yeah.
He was feeling in his oats. He was clever, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
You could hear a collective, what did he just do? Across the country, even amongst his own people. So I think tonight was definitive for her. Tonight, Kamala Harris showed that she was not just a vice president, that she was, in fact, ready to be president on foreign policy, on the economy, on domestic social issues, on sensitive issues around abortion and race. Yeah. She had a presidential vein that popped out very clearly for the country to see. And Donald Trump, the only thing he could do was stand there and look at the floor, sulk, pout. And on Twitter, the only thing MAGA could complain about was, "Oh, ABC, why are they fact-checking only Donald Trump?" Because he was the only one lying on the stage.
So, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. Really important, but just worth pointing out that he supposedly said 33 falsehoods. She said one, which was, I'll explain that later, what she got wrong. It was right, but wrong. And he did 33. I mean, it's just two different ball games there. Okay, so we're now going to go back just to CNN and listen to John King talk about how he interpreted it going.
John King, it was the moment she talked about his crowd size of all things, and people, not even was crowd size, it was people being bored and leaving his rallies early. I don't think he ever recovered from that. He started shouting, and he never stopped.
She triggered him there. I think she was uneven at the top. Not a bad answer, first answer in the economy, but not a great answer. She got her footing during the abortion conversation, where she felt more comfortable, and then she triggered him with the people leave your rallies.
So what a lot of people are saying, I've seen a few analysts say that actually she baited him in virtually every single answer. So she would have thought about this, would have been very tightly, and that's the difference between the two, is she was tightly prepared and Trump wasn't really. Trump was mainly riffing his preparation with Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz, who are going to get a lot of stick, I think, for this. But it won't be their fault, because Trump is not someone who likes to read from a script to be prepared in that way. He likes to get a sense of it and then just riff. And you could really tell that. She was very tight, and with her answers, with each answer, she just left some bait in there for him to then go, rah! And of course, that is exactly what she wanted. She wanted him to go off on one, say kind of either nonsensical stuff or, try and be too insulting or whatever, but she would bait him, and she succeeded in doing so. And the bait about crowd sizes and people leaving his rallies bored and exhausted triggered him. Absolutely triggered him. And some people are saying it was from that moment on that Trump lost it. And that was very clever. Bait him. And that's the bait that really sent him off on one.
And he lost it. And he was angry. From that moment on, his voice went up. He started angering. He told a lot of lies. Daniel Dale's going to be up all night. We should start a GoFundMe for his espresso machine. He did. And so what did she do? She triggered him on COVID, January 6th and democracy, abortion, chaos, lies, and his anger. What are those? Those are the issues that turned the American suburbs away from Donald Trump and why he lost the 2020 election. Those are the voters who were waiting to see if she could stand there and be a plausible president next to him. She cleared that bar. That doesn't mean she won their votes, but she cleared that bar with 8 weeks left in the election. She stood next to a former president, and she more than held her own. And on many of the issues, she schooled him. She simply schooled him because she triggered him into his lies and into his anger, which does not sell well with the middle of the electorate that will decide things 8 weeks from tonight.
I've been involved in a lot of these. I helped prepare a candidate for these debates, 6 of them. And I've been watching them since I was a little boy. I've scarcely seen a one like this, and the degree to which she dominated this. And part of it was butt kicking, and part of it was kind of someone doing it themselves in. I said earlier, jokingly, that when they said he's a Muhammad Ali in the debates, that their fear has to be that he knocks himself out. He kind of helped, but she set him up, as John said. But these things are more than about issues. These things are tests. These campaigns, these debates, they're oral exams for the hardest job on the planet. Sure. And people judge you in these moments, and they judge whether you have the mettle to stand up to that pressure, to be coherent, to deliver a case. And she certainly did that tonight.
Van?
Okay, I'd agree with all of this. As Martin Weiss here says, that's a symbolic picture for tonight's debate. So Kamala Harris tried to get under Donald Trump's skin, and she certainly succeeded. He repeatedly got angry while she mostly kept her cool. Also, the split screen was her friend, and that's what I was saying earlier, that the split screen allowed her to turn to him, and she was so often turning to him where he didn't turn to her. And when he was saying something, you would see her go almost derisorially, looking down on the things he said, that puts the substance of what he said in the true context of it often being ridiculous. For example, again repeating the nonsense about Haitians eating pets and just some absolute bonkers stuff. As someone, and I think you're going to see memes coming out of this now. So here's a good example of something sort of starting in that vein, which is every woman watching a man's single brain cell fighting for its life. These kind of looks would have been powerful and would have been not kind of get people angry with her. Look, if you're already fully sold with Donald Trump, nothing's going to change. There's going to be very little that's going to shift someone who is deep in Trump world, right? But that's not her job. Her job is those undecideds I was talking about earlier, and those swing voters and those independents and some of those Republicans who are disaffected with Trump, who are starting to realize that actually he's not really with it as much as he used to be. And the evidence from that debate is that he has continued some kind of cognitive decline, and he's certainly not as sharp as he was previously. As someone else says, George Conway, former actually Republican again, was married to Kellyanne Conway, who was who's still involved in the Trump campaign. This is what he says. This is the moment of death.
And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer.
And by the way, this is a bit that triggers him. Just again, if you're looking at this debate and you're looking at Donald Trump and you're like, I'm somewhere in the middle. Donald Trump is looking old. He's looking miserable. She looks happy all the time. Honestly, people have been commenting on this, and it's really important. She came across positively, right? There's this whole thing about joy in her campaign, but even when she was getting not angry or frustrated, but even when there was clearly stuff that Donald Trump was saying that was problematic, she would be coming at it not from a grumpy point of view, but he just looks really grumpy.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
She's talking to the audience here. She's not talking to the moderators. She's not talking to Trump. Trump is often arguing with the moderators, right? And say, like, almost trying to convince the moderators that he's doing the right thing. Kamala Harris is so often talking not to the moderators, but directly to the camera. She is speaking to you, the American voter, that is undecided, that you, the one that can be persuaded, the persuadables here. And she's doing it really, really well.
Early, out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will. And
she does a really good section later, which is similar to what she's done in one of her rallies, which is saying, when I was prosecuting a case, I'd be saying, I'm here on behalf of I'll try and find that actually. It's just, I'm representing you, not et cetera, et cetera. You are my client. And she then said, the American people are my client in a way that Donald Trump doesn't do. It's all about Donald Trump's in for himself. I'm here for you. And that was what that exchange was about. But it's that bit about crowd sizes that really got him riled. Watch this over and over, says Michael Weiss here. Here's the entire exchange. It started with Kamala Harris pointing out how Trump's rallies are both nuts and boring, Trump losing his shit and saying that they are the most incredible rallies in history before spreading the hoax about Haitian immigrants eating cats and dogs. So then let's take that bit that she was saying and then let's go further to see his response.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go...
That's just a lie. So what he said there was a lie. People don't go to her rallies. Her rallies demonstrably are absolutely rammed at the moment. There are waiting lines both in cars and people outside the rallies, and they are packed. They packed the same. They did this purposefully. They went to the same locations that he had just been to, and they packed them where he didn't. So when he says nobody goes to her rallies, he's just flailing. He's flailing and lying here, and that I think says all you need to know.
Successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them.
So again, look at her face. She's like, are you serious? Like, I'm bussing them in and paying them. Like, there's genuine organic enthusiasm.
In a different light. So
again, I just love her facial expressions. I mean, I'm getting quite excited here. Just it's brilliant.
In a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my...
Again, I don't know whether this is planned. I presume this would have been planned. They would have been like, this is a good thing to do, which is look at him with this utter bemusement and put your hand underneath your chin like that and just go, really? Really, Donald? Really? Who knew?
My rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States.
So what she did very cleverly near the beginning of the debate, and this is something I'd always advise, I mean, I've only been in a few formal debates myself, but what you want to do is predict what the other person will say and do, and pull the rug out from under their feet, especially if it's like a rhetorical device. And you want to say, right, what the other person's going to do is this. He's going to say, or she's going to say, this, this, and this. And I just want you to be aware of that, because when that gets said, he's actually trying to do, or she's trying to do this, this, and this. And what she says is, she said at some point in the debate that every answer he will give, he will try and get round to talking about immigration. Just watch out for that. And that's exactly what happened. So this is a question about rally size that he already didn't answer what was asked. And he said, I want to talk about this first. And he talks about rally size and says, she gets no one at her rallies, she buses them in and pays them. Mine are the biggest rallies ever in politics. Just both of those are lies, are outright lies. And then he says, and what's going on is immigration. They're busing, millions of people are coming into the country, and it's civil war. And it's like, none of this is to do with what the question was. And you are trying to bait and switch so that you're talking about what you want to talk about, which is fair enough. But that's already been highlighted by the warning that Kamala Harris gave earlier in the debate.
United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rally,
which has been a debunked kind of claim that originated from J.D. Vance. And even on that, he's like, I've been having these phone calls into my office saying that they're eating, not dogs. Trump's added on dogs. And he said, it might not be true, but I thought I'd let you know anyway. And then now this is something that's appearing in a public national debate on national television.
These are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
So what's interesting about this is that ABC predicted this would come up. I mean, that's how obvious Trump is that there's a meme or this idea going around in the previous 24 hours that had been picked up on by Trump and others on social media. And he had been spreading all these memes with him riding a cat with a machine gun, all these AI memes. And so on and so forth. So they knew that was coming. It's like, well, he's clearly going to bring this up. So they contacted the mayor of that town already, and the mayor's like, there's no credible evidence of this ever having happened. And then they fact check him, and then you get people like pro-Trump people who are butthurt about Trump being beaten in the debate, going, well, it was so unfair. ABC were fact checking him. That's because he was literally splurging ridiculous nonsense. To the degree that Kamala Harris wasn't. They didn't need to fact check Kamala Harris because she wasn't lying through her teeth about stuff, whereas he was.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So
I've seen people on television. Well, it must be true then.
Maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Just brilliant. Just what a response from her. It's like, see what you're going to have to put up with.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement.
So on and so forth. It's just a perfect answer. It's just like, what? But there you go. So now just a few more of these. We're going to go to the person that's just about to talk now. Oh, what's her name? I can't remember. She used to be a Republican as well. So she's now on NBC as a former Republican, giving her analysis of the debate as a whole.
And very tired.
Not Rachel Maddow.
In contrast, Kamala Harris appeared to be sort of light on her feet.
Sorry, the beginning part of this is Rachel Maddow talking, just giving her idea of how Harris did.
Quite puzzled by him. The two-shot of him squinting and hunching and seeming to be having physical trouble squeezing the words out, certainly squeezing the sentences out, while she just looked at him absolutely puzzled by where it was he was going. I think that visual may be as much of a takeaway as anything that was said. That said, boy, what was said? Trump repeatedly coming back to the same lines over and over again about world crime rates being low, and that being the explanation for America having high crime rates. He said strange things like all Democrats wanted Roe versus Wade overturned. He said that it is legal to kill children in the United States. He insisted that he saw something on television about eating dogs. That was one of the weirdest moments of the debate, saying he saw it on television, so therefore he knows it's true, and so therefore what the police said about it can't be true. Kamala Harris kept going back to her plan, her campaign, but also kept going directly at him.
And by the way, the talk about plan there is really important. So there was a moment in the debate where she went, I have a plan for this, blah, blah, blah. I have a plan for this. I have a plan. She repeated that construction. I have a plan. Here it is. I have a plan. Here it is. I have a plan. Here it is. He doesn't have a plan. This is a plan versus chaos. And this is one of the themes of her thesis, if you like. And it was really evident throughout the debate that actually he didn't have a plan, to the point where he was questioned on this. Do you have a plan for repealing Obamacare? So what happened during his 2016 to 2020 tenure is that he said, right, I'm going to repeal Obamacare, or the ACA, Affordable Care Act. And just like he said, I'm going to produce an infrastructure act, and it never happened. He kept promising it, it never happened. And he was constantly asked about this during his presidency. Is like, what is your plan for getting rid of it? You said one of your key campaign manifesto ideas was repealing ACA and getting in an alternative healthcare plan. What is your plan? And he's like, yeah, we got a plan. We're working on a plan. We're working on a plan. And then it got to 2020 and it never happened. It never happened. He gave a tax cut for the rich and that was it. It didn't do infrastructure, and then Biden got in, did infrastructure straight away, CHIPS Act, Inflation Reduction Act, insulin reduction, etc., etc. You got all these things done, and it's like, that's how you govern, you get stuff done. And so her approach here was to say to the audience, or to the voter, those particular voters, I have a plan, and here are my plans, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do here. He doesn't have a plan. And then the moderator asked, what's your plan for the ACA alternative? And he said, I don't have a plan. I have the concepts of a plan. And so he admitted, he even said, I don't have a plan. I have the concepts of a plan. It's like, oh my goodness, just that should be played over and over again.
She told him that military leaders who have worked with him have told her that Donald Trump is a disgrace. As she said to him, that you are a disgrace. She described him as confused and unable to understand that he lost the election. She said he was fired by 81 million people, and he's having a very difficult time processing that. She said he was handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times. She said people leave his rallies early due to exhaustion and boredom. In talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, she said Putin would be sitting in Kyiv if you were president, with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch?
And that's a really powerful moment, because actually she was genuinely talking to people out there in Pennsylvania where this debate was taking place and saying there's 800,000 Polish Americans. Like, Putin, if Trump was in charge, he loves Putin, Putin would be in Kiev thinking about Poland. And what do you think about that as a voter? I thought that was really clever.
I've never seen a starker contrast in presentation from two candidates in any debate, in any type of contest, in any political race.
I think that's because there hasn't been one. Now, I think that
So here's your former Republican.
we all know that maximum humility is required of us, particularly in the next 57 days. We do not know the outcome of the election. Yeah. But if these matter at all in the outcomes of said elections, it should be over. Because she didn't just prevail in every exchange. She prevailed at the humaning. Questions that were deeply personal, she turned into questions not about herself, not about her campaign, not about the Democratic Party, not even about Donald Trump, but about the country. The whole beginning was, I don't know if he noticed, his synapses did not seem to be firing, but she got out her entire economic agenda, the thing that Chris Christie suggested she do, use this as an opportunity to say what
in the first 2 minutes.
She did it in about the first 8 minutes. Yeah. It was all out there. You know,
So that goes back to this idea of she's introducing herself to people who don't really know her and letting them know what her substantial plans are. He's not doing that. He's going on vagueness and bombastic rhetoric and trying to scare the audience about her, while not really presenting anything substantial other than, build a wall, ship a load of immigrants out. Whereas she's going, no, I've got an economic plan. Here it is, here it is, here it is. You know who I am. I'm trying to be human. I'm talking to you. And also, I'm dropping in some bait to make him go a bit nuts.
Degree that Trump has support because his supporters are scared or nostalgic about an America that's slipping away. I suppose
Brilliant.
That was somewhere in there.
Idea.
For what it's worth, the Drudge Report has him, a picture of him with the cat saying it's over. I mean, and to the degree that it's our job to cover what the campaigns do and the political apparatus, the Trump campaign is going to plans B, C, and D, and they have them. They're dark and they're dirty and they're heinous.
What do you mean?
They're going to the types of things that Trump tweeted about, the threats, the retribution, the placement of allies on election boards, as they've done in the state of Georgia. Because this did not win Trump any new voters. Lawrence?
And that's what you need to take away from this. From my video, from the whole debate, is that this did not attract new voters, thereby being a failure for the Republicans and for Trump specifically. Now, just in terms of what Harris needed to do and that kind of checklist, here is a good synopsis of what she achieved.
That ended Donald Trump's, the cheese being firmly affixed to the cracker.
Yeah.
He literally, after that, could not stop interrupting. He could not stop going back. He could not stop going right back to his special place where he went on about immigration. He argued. He then turned around and interrupted and tried to keep arguing about crowd size. He tried to say we're going to World War III. He said millions of towns, Aurora, Springfield. He said that multiple times. They're eating dogs and cats. It was after that he went into the dogs and cats. David Weir breaks in and says, no, sir. There is no credible reporting about that. He kept rambling. I think what Vice President Harris managed to do was every single thing that the campaign beforehand said they wanted her to do. She got her policy points out. After this debate, what people will think about when they think about Vice President Harris is $25,000 for building a first home, $50,000 for a new business. They will think about the $6,000 tax credit because she kept saying it.
Yeah.
And what he kept saying was rambling, bizarre nonsense that made him look old. It made him look unstable. It made him look not just unpresidential, but the look that was on Vice President Harris's face. I kept screenshotting her face. The look said pity. Yeah. She looked like she pitied him.
Exactly.
And she kept looking at him like, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she finally said, I think you're having a hard time connecting with reality. Donald Trump got destroyed in this debate because he can't control his mind. And you don't want a president of the United States that is not in full control of his mind.
Ouch. Really painful. Actually, that wasn't a bit about checking the checklist That comes just after this interaction. Yeah, it comes after this interaction between Jen Psaki and Jon Favreau from Pod Save America.
I mean, you just mentioned this, but I think the line where he said, I don't have a plan, I have the concepts of a plan. And look, Kamala Harris prosecuted the case tonight many times where she said to Donald Trump, or she said to the audience, which is even better than talking to Donald Trump, she said to the people at home, he doesn't have a plan for you. He doesn't care about you. And then she would talk about her plans for the economy. And look, we're going to play all the really fun moments where she baited him, and that's going to be good for the next week or so. But I do think that the real damage she did was expose him as someone who just really hasn't thought about what he's going to do for the American people for the next 4 years because he only thinks about himself. And she laid out.
Boom. That is Donald Trump wholeheartedly. That is Donald Trump summarized in one pithy statement. He hasn't thought about the next 4 years because he's only thinking about himself. If I was running for president of the US, I would be constantly thinking about, right, I've got my own set of ideologies, right? But me being in this position is all about, those ideologies are all about how do I make the world a better place? That's the kind of what drives me. So how do I make the world a better place? So in becoming president of the US, how do I make US citizens be in a better place? How do I make the US a better place? And I'll be thinking the whole time about a plan for the next 4 years and how to execute that so that I'm doing the best I can for all of these different demographics who are part of that patchwork quilt that is the United States. Whereas I just think he thinks, right, how do I get more power? How do I get flattery? What does Viktor Orban think about me? What does King John, what's he saying about me in a letter? Oh, that's nice. He's saying really nice things. Let's do things that make me feel better about myself and give me more power and flattery, etc., etc. I just think it's two completely different approaches to running a country.
But her plans, whether it was on the economy, bringing down costs, whether it was on protecting reproductive rights. But look, Donald Trump has participated in 7 presidential debates, countless primary debates, and he has never been beaten as badly as he was tonight by Kamala Harris. And that takes so much preparation on her behalf. She really prepared for this debate. She knew what she was going to do. She came with a plan. She made the whole debate about Donald Trump when she could have been on the defensive and he could have put her on the defensive. And so she really executed the plan that she came with. But also, he's really lost a step. I mean, when he was ranting and raving in 2016 with Hillary Clinton and he was lying all the time, but he did make some sort of sense then. And tonight, there were just long stretches where he was completely incoherent and you couldn't even follow what he was talking about.
It was very difficult. I agree with you completely that I think Donald Trump's he's debated a lot of people, a lot of Republicans, Democrats too, of course. That was the best orchestrated debate against Donald Trump that we have seen, hands down. Simone, you know the vice president better than all of the rest of us. You have staffed her, you've prepped her, you've been a part of the debate preps, all of the things. What was the moment you were watching tonight, or maybe there's more than one, there probably was, where you thought, yes, that is the American people seeing who she is and what she...
And here's your checklist, which I think is worth... I mean, this would be the last bit of these kind of different analyses that we'll go through.
...is capable of.
Well, I frankly thought her entire... Look, debates are part policy, part performance. Every debate is. And I think that she hit the marks on the policy and the performance. People are all like, oh, she won, he lost, and da-da-da. I think, frankly, as you know, when you grade a debate, the question is, did you do what you said you wanted to do when you were in the preparation talking about the debate? And
this goes back to simple. What are your objectives? Did you achieve them? Like Trump, what were your objectives? I mean, who knows? I reckon he's just I want to make Kamala Harris look bad. And that's it. I'm going to insult her, make her look bad, and there's not that much more depth of thought in that, where she's I'm introducing myself and get my plan out. I'm substantiating my policy agenda. I'm also trying to bait him. I'm making myself look human. I'm speaking to the audience as if they are who I am representing, and that is all the people out there, whatever side of the aisle they sit on, etc., etc. She's got all these things that she's trying, all these plates she's trying to spin, and she's ticking them off, and he's just yeah, I'm just going to try and insult her and talk about dogs getting eaten by Haitian immigrants.
Did she come across clear and strong? Check, yes. Did she get her policy positions out on what she believes on the economy, which is important to voters across the board, not just these people in the middle? Black voters, young people, women of every, race, people, everybody cares about the economy. Check, yes. Did she adequately counter the lies? Yes. Absolutely, yes. There was more she could have said, but then she wouldn't have done the thing about her own policy. Did she find moments to turn to the camera and speak directly to the American people at home and let them know, say, hey, find your camera.
I love that you're doing it now.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what you got to do. You got to find your camera and then talk to your camera. Yes, yes, and yes. Did she bait Donald Trump into a back and forth? Absolutely. Did she make him look unhinged and she looked in control? Absolutely. It was Donald Trump having her conversation tonight. Absolutely. But to your point, debates do not win elections. They can influence them for sure. And I'm very happy that Jacob Soboroff did that focus group right after, because there were people were texting like, what in the world? What is wrong with these voters? Now, let me tell you, that's most people in America right now. If the election were held today, I do not think Vice President Harris will win it. I think she can absolutely win in November. But a month and a half ago, Joe Biden was a Democratic nominee. So there is work this campaign needs to do. The campaign knows they need to do this work, and the vice president knows they need to do the work. That's why she continues to say that she is the underdog in this race, because she is out there talking to people and she is looking at their internals, and she knows what the streets are saying and where the streets are right now and where they need to go.
And so what this has presented is a platform now, a springboard from which she can launch her campaign properly, now start going and having interviews. She'll be doing interviews now. She'll be getting out there. She'll be having all these rallies, going to very targeted places. This allows her this is that kind of nitro boost for the rest of her campaign. So there you go. Yeah, this is your plan. This is your concepts and plans bit. Just blows my mind. This is on healthcare, which is a huge part of your policy agenda, right?
But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan, but until then, I'd run it as
Brilliant.
good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
That just needs to feature on an advert. If that doesn't feature on an advert, they are missing something there. Absolutely brilliant. So here are some just random opinions. Kamala Harris asked for people's votes tonight. Donald Trump just assumed that people would vote for him. That's the difference. And I like that synopsis. I agree. Yeah. Okay, here is another element. So what was this? Trump walks into a Kamala Harris counter. Trump, she is Joe Biden. Harris, I'm not Joe Biden. I'm certainly not Donald Trump. What I offer is a new generation of leadership. Trump flails in response. So let's watch this interaction.
She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman. She says, she is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad. And she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
What a brilliant way to deal with that. He's going to try and pin, I said this last night, that he's going to try and pin Joe Biden's legacy, Joe Biden's I guess, policies and failures, as he would have it, on her. Like, the last 4 years is on you. You are Joe Biden. She's like, I'm clearly not Joe Biden. So laughs that off in a really clever way there. And says, and I'm not you either. I'm a fresh new ideal here. And I've got a third way. And this is it. So I think that's really well turned around there.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in...
I have to tell you, this is also one of the absolutely key moments of the debate. And we know this is a key moment because, you know, this is a bad debate for Donald Trump because he went out into the spin room afterwards and tried to rescue it. So he was sent back out to the spin room. So that's the area where all the press are outside. And he was trying to say, hey, the polls are showing that I won this. All these different polls. Yeah. But he also, in that spin room, he said, I don't like disparaging the US, but it is, you know, in a terrible state at the moment. It's all as a fault of these guys type thing. Now, he has been criticized because he's always talking about make America great again. And he's downplaying where America is. And he's slagging off America consistently, where that's not really what you should be doing if you're trying to make everyone feel good about themselves and their country. Yes, it's about making improvements, but you can't just constantly go around saying, well, everything sucks, you suck, this sucks, they suck, or the US is crap, we're crap, we're crap. You do that all the time and you denigrate the people too much and your country too much. And she is picking up on that. For him to then come into the spin room after and take that point on particularly means that has hit home.
There's a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President Trump, we have to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
She has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she has
we do
a
have
plan
to move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
And interestingly, she deals with all those points. She talks about, I own a gun and Tim Walz owns a gun. We are not coming to steal your guns. And she talks about fracking as well. But I thought it was a really interesting juxtaposition there of I have a plan, I have a plan. What do you have a plan? Like what? So you come away from this understanding that that's part of that's one of the themes of her debate performance there. But if you're an undecided, you come away, I think, from that thinking, well, she's got a clear plan of where the country's going. I don't really know. Like, I know he hates immigrants, so deporting immigrants, but you know what else really is a Trump administration about? And then, like, if you're going to take a single statement to sum up this debate, this is probably the best one for me. It's just this is brilliant. As is it Dimitri from War Translated says, this can't be real. Please tell me it's fake. Yeah.
now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
Trans immigrants, prisoners, like the crime. They're all wrapped up into now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal immigrants in prison. Is this what it's come down to? Jeez.
Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
Just, yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. Culture wars nonsense and immigrants eating cats and dogs. Honestly, substance, guys. Substance. She comes at this debate with some plans and substance, and this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. He doesn't come with plans, he comes denigrating them as being people who are trying to make imprisoned illegal immigrants have transgender operations or whatever. Just like, yeah. Michael Weiss says there's no state in this country in which it's legal to kill a baby after it's born. So this is a thing a debate moderator just said to a presidential nominee, Trump. So Trump again claiming that in 6 states that it's legal to abort a baby after it's been born, which doesn't even make sense. But like this kind of idea of executing babies, like to be fact checked on that live, like there is no state in this country in which it is legal to kill a baby after it is born. So what are you talking about, Trump? And this closing statement, I think, sums up as well Harris and where she's at compared to that stark contrast with Trump.
So I think you've heard tonight too.
You are going to be hearing about positivity, about unity, and about speaking to the country as a whole and presenting a serious plan about moving forward.
Two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President.
What an incredible way to finish it. I even think she almost broke down there in talking about that sense of unity. Are you okay? Like, I'm here for you. As a prosecutor, are you okay? I need to prosecute your case. As a president, are you, my people, okay? Are we okay? Let's prosecute this case for the betterment of the United States. I thought that was an incredible finishing there. But yeah, do you think she almost like chokes here?
Body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now.
I think she's really showing the human front there and the caring, empathetic front. And that is in stark contrast to Trump's lack of empathy. Absolutely a barnstorming finish, I think, to the debate there. Phillips O'Brien says maybe the most important thing from last night wasn't that Trump is mentally failing. That's been clear for a while. It's that Harris definitely crushed the criticisms. She can't speak without notes or a teleprompter. In an open session, she was far more articulate than Trump. End of. Absolutely 100% true there. Right. Just some foreign policy things that are supremely important. And if you're interested in Ukraine, which I am, and this channel very much is, this is all you need to know.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop.
Do you want Ukraine
So he actually didn't answer that, and there are several times where he was asked and he refused to answer. That's all you need to know. Trump, a would-be autocrat, says Gary Kasparov, using Orban, an actual autocrat, as a character reference is too perfect. As with his praise for Xi and Putin as strong, his naked envy of their unaccountable power is one of the few sincere expressions. So one of the most genuine that Trump was being was when he was referring to Viktor Orban, and we come to this, in sort of saying that, hey, not everyone thinks I'm disgraceful. Viktor Orban thinks I'm awesome. Now, this is also a problem. Donald Trump admitted to meeting with Putin after he left office, which is it the Logan rule that he's broken?
Is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after is
he's literally admitted to breaking the law there while actually not in. The point is that he wasn't president at that point. So yeah, right. We are going to look at a few foreign policy moments here, and we're going to go to 5320, which I think are really, really revealing. Okay. So
he said, when will be one of you
was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
Ouch, that is a zinger. That is an absolute zinger. And this is talking to his idea of like refusing to admit that he'd been beaten in the election. Yeah, it's an absolute zinger.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
Using the apprentice terminology.
We cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
Drop mic. I mean, absolutely brilliant. Like this idea, you don't even appear to understand what a fact is and what fiction is.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart.
One of the most respected men. By whom? Who is respecting Viktor Orban other than Putin and others?
Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Just rambling nonsense like, oh yeah, I've spoken to Joe Biden, he hates you. That's the sort of thing you say on a school playground. Oh yeah, I just spoke to Laura. Yeah, she says she hates you. Yeah, you loser. Laura hates you. Mate, you're running for president. Just grow up. Anyway, I just want to forward just a couple more moments to go through. 10. Here we go. Okay.
For doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors.
Boom, drop mic, absolutely on point, brilliant. It's what I've been saying for so long about Trump. Manipulatable by these nefarious dictators and autocrats around the world who will flatter him and win his praise of them and win his support effectively and allow them to influence his actions.
And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President
Some really important points there made, and I just want to go talk about Ukraine more formally as it is brought up by the moderator here. Here we go.
And Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by them.
Not answering the question. Right. You've got Manchester City against Aston Villa. Right. Do you want Manchester City to win? I want the game to finish. No, do you want Manchester City to win? The game, people are getting too tired. There are too many goals being scored. I just want the game to finish.
The millions, it's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are.
Lie.
They're in for $150 billion less because Biden
Lie.
and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO.
Lie. Europe had spent more on supporting Ukraine than the US. If you add up European Union spending and the individual nations, as I've talked to you before, they outspend. In fact, last time I worked it out, Europe has spent $100 billion more than the Americans. So he's just not only wrong, he's entirely wrong.
They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into
He's pulling that out of his arse.
100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin...
Just, it's worth remembering that almost, and this is the same with all of his answers, it's worth remembering that he never tells you how he's going to do things. He never actually gives you the policy substance, never gives you that granular detail. Like, how are you going to solve it? I'm going to get them together and... zibbity za, abracadabra, skibbly bum, doobly doo, bah! It's finished. It's done. Oh, I've just solved it. That's magic. What are you talking about? Come on, mate. We're better than that. Just tell us how you're going to end the war. I mean, if you know how to end it and you haven't alerted people as to how to end it already, then you are somewhat morally culpable for the death of all the people that have died since you announced that you knew how to finish it, that you would be able to do that. But no, you can't unfortunately bring yourself to let people know how you would solve it in 24 hours.
After I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
And again, he's going to try and get the definitive answer out of Trump in vain.
Time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this...
He wouldn't, like, if you are that interested in Ukraine, and if you are still watching my Ukraine war videos as a Trump supporter and thinking Trump is going to be the answer to Ukraine prevailing in a war, that should tell you everything you need to know. Absolutely abominable, in my opinion. So there you go.
Turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first
So actually, that's the last of the debate analyses and excerpts. Now we're going to go look very quickly at some fallout from the debate. Elon Musk pretty quickly said, "Well, I don't think the debate hosts were fair to Donald Trump." So this is a classic. What happens is if you know your guy has tanked, right? You've got cognitive dissonance reduction in your head. You're like, you can't say my guy sucked. It was terrible. He did a really bad job. Harris was really good. You have to blame. So how can I justify? How can I square that with my belief that Donald Trump's awesome and he should be the right guy for the job? Because this evidence shows that core belief to be false. So therefore, it has to be that the evidence that he sucked in that debate was as a result not of him, but of someone else. So it can't be Harris, because that is your zero-sum game. And like if he's bad and she's good, then because she's good, then she should be the president. So it has to be someone else. It's got to be the moderators. So it's a moderator's fault. So what you're seeing is a lot of people who are strong supporters of Trump coming out saying, oh, it's the moderators, they were fact-checking too much. But as we'll see, that's an absolutely unfair accusation for a number of reasons. But this is exactly what Elon Musk does. He says, well, I don't think the debate hosts were fair to Trump. So he starts with that. He does actually give some credit to Harris, and also say that Trump, wasn't great. But he starts with, I don't think they were fair to him. But Harris did exceed most people's expectations. That said, when it comes to getting things done, so I actually didn't say Trump was bad at all. He just said the hosts sucked and she was better than expected. That said, when it comes to getting things done, not just saying nice sounding words, I strongly believe that Trump will do a far better job. After all, if Kamala can do great things, why hasn't she? Biden rarely shows up for work, so she's basically in charge already. Complete nonsense. The question comes down to this: do you want current trends to continue for 4 more years, or do you want change? Well, actually, economically speaking, the trends are really quite excellent. So I would argue yes, actually, yes. But Elon Musk's supporters, like the biggest loser in this debate was ABC News. Actually, they did a really good job, and more objective analyses are saying that. And he's like, 100%, yeah, terrible. And then when, just to add a bit of Elon Musk, as I said before, Taylor Swift came out just after the debate and gave her endorsement of Kamala Harris, really powerful endorsement, and encouraged people to go out and register. Then Elon Musk, and she said, I'm a childless cat lady. He came out, Elon Musk, and said, fine, Taylor, you win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life. So literally promising to, saying that he'll impregnate her and guard her cats. The award for creepiest Twitter post of 2024 goes to Elon Musk. Anyway, John Cry here says, Tulsi, better clean out your locker. So Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz were responsible for prepping Donald Trump. And apparently Tim Miller from the Bulwark says, just spoke with Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, in the spin room. He said the debate team should be fired and Trump was unprepared. It was a disaster. So that's coming from Lindsey Graham. Here we have someone pointing out the hilarity of the reactions to right-wingers who really wanted Trump to win. Megyn Kelly says every single question is about Trump controversies, putting him on the hot seat on them, and then a follow-up to her to let her dump on him for 2 minutes. Someone else saying Kamala is clearing the bar. She's doing what she needs to do. Trump needs to shake up the dynamic. So that's interesting. And then Ben Shapiro, the moderators are the story of the evening, and it isn't a good story. And Adam Kinzinger says back to Ben Shapiro is not someone I like in any way, shape or form. He said ABC moderators are a disgrace to their profession. And Adam Kinzinger says, again, what you would say when you're losing. And that's pretty true. It's like those kind of complaints are people whining because Trump did not do well. James Sorowecki says, probably not how to pronounce that, the ABC moderators have let Trump speak for 9 minutes longer, roughly 30% more than Harris. So if you're going to complain about how ABC were treating Trump badly, you need to understand that he spoke for 30% more time than Kamala Harris, that the moderators allowed him to speak more than her. The way they've supposedly rigged the debate is by letting him hang himself with his own stream of consciousness rambles. That's really important. So that was in response to someone whinging. ABC's rigged job is the story here. This is like a game when an obvious and clear officiating error is the primary story after the game. It's all that is going to be talked about. No, it's not. But it is by people like you, that's for sure. Now, this is what happened straight away, is that Trump came out into the spin room and was kind of speaking to anyone that would want to listen, people asking him to speak up. A couple of interesting questions thrown at him, but you won't be able to hear this very well. He's listing loads of polls. We're getting polls that are showing me winning 88, 71, 80, 90%, you know, etc., etc., just claiming that he won the debate.
Lots of other polls, but you see the polls. A very important debate. Now, she wants to do another one because she got beaten tonight.
He said she wants to do another one because she got beaten tonight.
But I don't know. Why wouldn't you look at her?
So there's a question there that I think...
The polls are indicating that we got 90%, 60%, 70%.
I think there was a question. Was that one of the questions? Because I'm sure there's a question. It's like, why wouldn't you look at her? Which is a really good question.
71%, and 89%.
Where are you getting these numbers from?
Where are you getting these numbers from? My posterior.
Very good. But beyond the polls, I felt very good. I had a good time doing it. I hate to speak about our...
So this was the part where I was talking about earlier, and I'll play it, but I'll say what he says.
I hate to speak about our country so negatively, but that's what happened. They ruined...
I hate to speak about our country so negatively, but that's what happens. They've ruined our country. So he comes out, and that's something that is in the top of his mind to talk about. So he has been, I think, reprimanded for downplaying the country so much, for being so negative. His whole campaign is so negative. Her campaign's about joy and positivity and unity. It's a really stark difference, and I think he's been told that. So he's been rolled out to say, yeah, the polls are that I won, so aren't I awesome? And I don't mean to talk down about the country, but it only sucks because of these losers type thing. They've ruined our country. Destroyed our country. I hope you're all having a good time. So on and so forth. So he went out into the spin room, and that itself was a sign. According to a CNN poll, 63% of debate viewers gave the victory to Harris, while 37% remained Trump supporters. Now, what was interesting here is those people that were chosen to align with the electorate. And before the debate, they were 50-50. And then afterwards, they were 63-37. So there was definitely a swing amongst people who were persuaded, basically, that some people who were Trump supporters said that he lost the debate. And it's, you know, the poll for CNN was 63%. Harris won 37%. Gave the victory to Trump. I don't know how you could give that victory to Trump. At the same time, Trump claims that he won 86% to 3%. Some people are saying that doesn't even add up. Like, there's 89%. What about the 11%? They were just like, oh, I don't know. Or, I mean, you can have don't know, or it's a draw, but it's unlikely. It's just, again, just pulling numbers. He clarified on Hannity that he won one of these polls, 86% to 3%. Strong maths there. She wants to do another one since she got beaten tonight. That's what he said earlier. The polls are indicating that we got 90%, 60%, 72%, 71%, and 89%. The polls are very good. I felt very good. I had a good time doing it. Kamala Harris's team should send some flowers over to Tulsi Gabbard and Representative Matt Gaetz for prepping Trump for the debate. They might be on the receiving end of a bit of a mauling. Now, what's J.D. Vance done since then? He's on CNN talking about geese at the city pond being ravaged in Ohio, being eaten by these Haitian migrants, apparently, still. So he's doubling down on that. But he doesn't say these claims are true, just that they should be investigated. And the other interesting point about the fallout to this debate is that the Harris campaign are looking like they're going to get a lot more money out of it as well. Update 2, Democrats are now raising $2 million every 10 minutes on Act Blue. This is nuts. So that was kind of live reporting that it'd be interesting to see how much they've raised as a result of that debate. But my goodness, $10 million every 2 minutes is staggering. Anyway, that's my synopsis. It was a massive one. It was always going to be a long one. I was always going to give you a huge video here. Hopefully that gives you a flavor of what happened and why some analysts believe as they do. I think this was all about trying to attract people outside of your base. And the question is, who would have done that more? Trump, who's basically saying everything he's always said, which is like conspiracy theory craziness or insults or like just vagueness. And Kamala Harris was introducing herself to the audience on themes of having a plan and substantiating those plans and speaking on behalf of all of America and saying that she's going to be representing all of them, being positive and joyful whilst holding Trump to account, leaving some trail of breadcrumbs for him to come back to be sort of mauled in some of the responses, and saying that he's only going to talk about immigration, and that's exactly what he did do, and he kind of did exactly what she said he would do, and it was all quite predictable, and I think it was just very competent from Kamala Harris. I think her team, so where Biden was over-prepared before but didn't have the cognitive ability to remember all the things he was supposed to say, and I think there's a real sign in that previous debate of his cognitive failings at the moment. And going forward, they're not going to get better, are they, really? He was unable, he had been prepped so much that he had all this stuff floating around in his head and he was unable to grasp it. And the pressure of the moment, he just sort of froze up. Whereas she's a prosecutor, this is what she does for a living, right? In court. It's this combative rhetorical jousting that takes place. And she did that and she showed herself to be really competent and delivered. She absolutely delivered. And that is your springboard. It's going to be fascinating to see if that affects the polls at all. There might be a tiny bit of a bump in the polls, but it's going to be actually about giving a platform for the campaigning going forward, for the interviews on TV. And I'm sure she'll do a number of interviews to get that substance out there and to continue that momentum and take that into the key swing states, the battleground states where she is going to be hanging out with Tim Walz, and they're going to be doing their campaigning there. They're going to have an absolute ton of money to burn, where Trump's campaign is going to struggle. They've got like 3 times as much money as Trump's campaign, and they are spending it, and they are going to be spending it wisely, but also they're going to be spending it very much so in those battleground states. So it's going to be fascinating to see, obviously, the rest of the election season, but the next couple of weeks to see where she goes straight after this debate, how it's managed by both teams. How do the Republicans manage this? Do they rely on Fox News effectively lying to their audience and saying, well, it's brilliant, Trump won that, excellent, so Trump's amazing? Or are Fox going to start being honest with their audience? I mean, part of why people still support Trump is because they don't get to hear the other side at all. So when Fox News were reporting on the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, they didn't play any of the speeches from the former Republicans. They didn't play Adam Kinzinger. They didn't play the Georgia governor. Jeff Duncan. These people were not reported on, so their speeches were not heard, and so there will be an awful lot of the Republican audience that simply haven't heard what Kamala Harris has to say, or everything they hear is through the Fox News lens that gets filtered in distorted in such a way that it's presented negatively. And actually, they're not really getting an accurate sense of who she is. And watching a debate like that, if someone, a Fox News viewer, watches that debate unfiltered, then they're going to actually get a sense of the reality of the situation, who Trump is in relation to who Kamala Harris is, and who seems to be more competent and more compos mentis. There could be an effect here, and she needs to run with that and give that permission structure for Republicans to come over. And she's in a strong position to win the election if she can continue this kind of performance going forward. Let me know what you guys think. If you think I'm totally, but I am biased. Of course, I'm biased. I have my biases. You know them, and I wanted Kamala Harris to win. So I'm going to be willing these analysts to say what they're saying, but they still said that, and it's still the debate was what it was. Like, is out there, go and watch it. My opinion is she easily won that debate. What do you think? Where am I wrong if you think I am wrong? Where am I right if you think I am right? Take care, guys. Really appreciate your support, and I'll speak to you soon.